I'm Nick Stacy with NKYSportsBlog.com. We all remember that special athlete growing up. Maybe we were a kid in grade school, maybe we were in high school, or maybe we were that parent in the stands and thought to ourselves, man, this guy's got to be something. Now I've scoured Northern Kentucky in an attempt to find these athletes, so come along and let's see who I got. It's been a while since Lloyd, but playing days and everything, but I asked you the same thing I asked Brandon. Think you were good enough to make it when you were back there at Lloyd?
I don't think so. I mean, at Lloyd High School, I think I was just trying to get the ball in the strike zone more than anything. You know, I was kind of a wild horse on the mound at Lloyd, and I was really raw. I think by my senior year, I thought I was good. I had some success on the mound, and I think things were starting to come together for me. And I was getting a little stronger. I was skinny. I was 6'4", like 170. 175, and just a string bean and just throwing the ball as hard as I could and didn't have a clue. But as a senior at Lloyd, I started putting things together. I didn't think I was going to go play professional baseball at that point, but I was hoping.
And how hard did you throw it nice? Do you remember?
Yeah, I was in mid-80s. I think, you know, I ended up playing with the Midland Redskins that year and then came back to Northern. I was a 17-year-old freshman at Northern, and it was funny, that summer I was 86, and then that freshman year I started hitting the high 80s and low 90s, so it was like, you know, I matured kind of late as a youngster, and it was like, man, I really started throwing the baseball a lot harder as I got into college.
Northern Kentucky playing in high school baseball, and then Northern Kentucky University.
Yeah.
The decision to go there.
Yeah, the decision there, I mean, I had a few people that were calling and asking about me. I mean, it wasn't a huge amount of interest in me. Like I said, I was kind of a late bloomer. My senior year, you know, was an all-region player, all-conference player, and ended up playing at Midland. But my dad, when he and I went over to NKU, and Bill Aker said, hey, you know, I'd like to have you come over. He really hadn't recruited me. And it was, you know, in the backyard there, so I said, hey, you know, there's an opportunity for me. And he said, hey, I'd love to have you. And actually, Matt Bomer, who just passed away, was an all-region player out of Beechwood, and he and I signed at the same time, and we're the freshman class at NKU that year.
Talk about playing college ball. How much fun was that?
It was great, man. The guys at NKU are crazy. I mean, the craziest bunch of guys.
Do you always hear that? NKU's crazy
No,
guys?
well, I don't know. I don't know if that's across the board, but when my group had a couple South African guys, Gary Flowerday, one of the best hitters of all time at NKU, one of the craziest people, and fun, you know, baseball players I've ever had any association with, and had a really good time there, and a lot of those guys. I mean, we had the Akers all-time winningest record my junior year, 49-8, something like that, and finished out strong. And I left after that, but I mean, had an incredible time at NKU.
All right, let's move on. Getting closer to the majors now. Talk about minor league ball. Brandon had some stories, but he couldn't really tell us that much. But talk about the road up there in the minors.
Oh, minor leagues is tough, man. You know, you're on the buses quite a bit. I played in Charleston, West Virginia, and it was 8 hours to get down to Greensboro, going through the hills of West Virginia. I mean, the one story that I always remember, my first year in A-ball, there was a young shortstop you might have heard of him, Trevor Hoffman. He was a shortstop at the time, and Trevor was a big guy. You know, he's got big, broad shoulders, and he would fit up in the luggage rack up in the bus. And he would do that, or he would blow up a mattress and be in the middle of the lanes. But you would do anything to get some shut-eye. I mean, you're exhausted. You know, traveling 8 hours here, 3 days, and 8 hours back, et cetera, et cetera. Travel's bad. You know, there's many a times that early on in a road trip, I might have went out and partaked in some adult beverages probably early and spent all my meal money, and then I was eating peanut butter the rest of the time, or I left some money for a good steak before my start, something like that. But you learn from those things, you know. But as a young player, you learn that, hey, I'm playing 140 games, and you've got to figure out, what you need to do to perform at a high level. And usually, spending all your meal money the first night of the road trip is not probably the smart thing to do. But you learn those things.
Yeah, a couple of things.
Yeah,
with Trevor Hoffman, the shortstop. Very nice.
Yeah, and that year they started converting him that year into a pitcher, and that was one of those things where he was speaking at a Brewers thing not too long ago. Hey, how many balls did you boot behind me? That was one of the reasons that you became a Hall of Fame pitcher, is because you could shortstop, and that was, not only my ERA, but runs on me that you gave up on every fifth day, Trevor.
Yeah.
I mean, you're killing me. You batted 190, you know. But what a terrific guy, and very, very humble guy. Still very good dude.
And talk about now getting the call up. How did it happen, and the whole
This is
thing
a good story. I was in Phoenix, Arizona. I was recently married. My wife were out in Phoenix. She was working downtown Phoenix, and we only had one car at the time. And the ballpark was relatively close. It's probably a mile or two away. And I got a phone call early in '95. I'd gone to spring training. It was a short, strike shortened year. Spring training started late. And I had just got with the AAA team. I just finished out spring training, and they had already started. So I joined them late, and I was there about 7 days. And I threw once, I think. And I was at the apartment early afternoon, the phone rings, and it's my trainer. He goes, "Hey man, I couldn't find you, where you been?" And I'm like, I don't know, I mean, I've been here. And he goes, "Hey, the skipper needs to talk to you." And I'm like, "Okay, you know, hey." And he's like, "Hook, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Get to the ballpark as soon as you can, you're going to Big Leagues." And I'm like, "Get out of here, I'm not going to Big Leagues." I mean, I was really just denial, you know, the first thing. And he goes, "You need to get here now." Well, here I am, I'm 2 miles away from the ballpark, no car. So, I mean, I'm filled, I mean, I'm excited.
Yeah.
So, immediately what I did, I put my shoes on, I started running. I mean, I just sprint out the door, and I am sprinting to the ballpark.
You have all your gear with you?
No, I don't have anything with me. I'm just getting the ballpark. I don't know why I have to get there, but I got to get there. So I start running. About halfway through the apartment complex, I stop. I said, "Oh, I got my bike." I ran back. I got my bike, and I rode my bike to the ballpark. I had called my wife in between that period. I said, "Hey," you know, it was funny. Earlier in the day, I had called her, and I said, "Hey, you know, we kind of goofed around. I am the insurance guy looking for the bill. Where's the bill?" And then I call her back later and say, "Hey, I'm going to Big Leagues," and she's like, "Get out! You're not going." I'm like, "Get the car to the ballpark. I'm going to the Big Leagues." So it was kind of a running thing, but it was an exciting time. You know, I was a non-drafted player, so I had I signed on a tryout camp at Riverfront Stadium. I fought through, you know, I looked at all these guys getting signed for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're getting released in spring training. And I just keep going, and I never told myself I'd never make it to the Big Leagues, but you know, here I was, not getting a dime, and it was a very cool experience, and just kind of, wow, you know, your whole life passes before you after that phone call. Like, holy cow, this is huge, you know. So it was a really cool moment.
That first time getting on the field.
First time, you know, it was really quick. I got to pitch against the Marlins. Kind of talk about my first strikeout, Gary Sheffield. You know, that's not a big deal. No, it was a cool deal. It was actually a fastball that cut on me. You know, Gary Sheffield's got incredible bat speed. You know, I'm too dumb to know that at the time. I just threw a fastball, but it actually had a little cut, and I struck him out. And I'm like, you know, everybody thought I threw like a 95-mile-an-hour fastball at the time. But that was my first strikeout, and you know, kind of a neat day. I got my first strikeout, my first earned run. It was a home run. You know, but we won't talk about that part. But the first strikeout was pretty cool, Gary Sheffield, and I'll always remember that.
Yeah, you got to, man. Maybe a Hall of Famer you struck out there too, you know?
Possibly. Started when I was 20. I finished when I was about 30 years old, 10 seasons, and then I played those parts of 2 seasons in '95 and '96 with the Giants, which is really, really cool. Struggled to get there, like I said, non-drafted free agent. Got to play with all kinds of, you know, like the Trevor Hoffmans. I played with Barry Bonds and Michael Jordan in the fall league one time, Deion Sanders. So King Griffey Jr. when I played with Midland. So I got to play with incredible athletes and guys that were at the top of their game, and I got a chance to not only play with them, but to see how they work. You know, Michael Jordan, you know, here he is a basketball superstar, but here he is in a fall league trying to make a minor league team, and he's the first one to the ballpark. And you just see Deion Sanders, you know, he's flash and he's doing all this stuff, but you know, he's the first guy to sign an autograph for you. Hey, what do you need? Where can I take you? You know, people don't see that, but you know, got to see the men behind those superstars, and it kind of teaches a little bit about the game and how people are. And these guys, you know, of course, bad things about Barry Bonds can be said, but there was multiple times that he stood up and said something for me and in my regard. Hey, this guy needs to do this or whatever. Long stories about that, but incredible moments. And the people, and Brandon said this the other day at the Hall of Fame induction, the people you play with is what you remember. I can't really point out a moment or a time or a strikeout that I really remember, but it's the people and those journeys you go on with the people that you really remember, and hopefully some of those things that you get to learn you can pass along.
speaking of passing it along and the things that you've learned, now you're using it here at the yard, and talk about the thought process behind that, and now you are trying to teach some other Northern Kentucky future legends or whatever coming
It's
up.
been 10 years for At the Yard too. It's crazy. You guys have been in this building along the way. It started when I got finished playing baseball and I came home. I knew that Charlie Taylor had been doing pitching lessons for a while. He's a longtime Houston Astros coach who I have a lot of respect for. And I always felt that we could do more. We could do more teaching. And that was like, man, there's a need here. So we started it and built up a clientele. We built the building, have many great hitting instructors, a lot of Northern Kentucky greats that play professional baseball here. But it's just been a thrill to see guys come in here that you look and they could hardly get the ball from here to there when they started like at 9 or 10. And we get them going, we get them competing. And then sooner or later you look around and this kid's a senior and he's going to play somewhere. And he's going to play college baseball. That's the coolest thing in the world for us. And it happens a lot. Like, man, this guy has no chance. He can probably play knothole. I mean, he has no chance to play knothole. Let's just get him on a team. And before you know it, he matures, he gets better, he's working at his craft, and then he's going somewhere. And that's so cool to us, because they forget how far they've come.
And now you're being honored a little bit here with the Hall of Fame inductions and everything. Talk about you got that.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
And now you get to get up there and be honored a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
that was cool. It happened the other day. The Lloyd High School thing happened last year, which I thought, man, that's really neat. That was the first one, and that was really cool to be inducted the first time. And then just recently, the Northern Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame. There's so many people that I know that have been in and have done great things in Northern Kentucky and continue to be involved in sports. And what a great honor. I mean, it was really neat. And you get up there and I speak in front of people a lot. I'm doing lessons every night, but you get up there and you're like, you kind of get choked up. You start thinking about people that have helped you along the way and old coaches and all that stuff. It's a really neat honor, and I was glad to accept it.